Gary, congratulations on being inducted in the California Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
In your career as a competitor, who had the greatest impact on your wrestling career?
That was easily John Rosales, my first wrestling coach ever in high school. He basically taught me everything about wrestling, how to wrestle, how to be tough-minded and persistent, and he kind of taught me the mental toughness that took me into college and beyond.
Oh, that's quite a compliment, especially seeing how high you rose in wrestling.
Yeah. I had quite a number of coaches after John, but when I think back on it, John he really had a significant influence. I'm a 14-year-old kid and not really sure what I was going to do, had no prior exposure to wrestling, and John just hooked me. My first season, that was it. I was going to be a wrestler forever after that.
Oh, isn't that great? Did you have someone that you looked up to in wrestling as a hero or an idol?
I was thinking about that, other than kind of idolizing my coach at the time, I didn't have any true idols in wrestling. My idol was really my older brother, who was a year older than me, and he was a star football player, and so I was intent on becoming a star football player as he did, and which I didn't, but he ended up becoming a doctor, and I followed in his footsteps that way. But no significant wrestling idol as I grew up. I had influences in my lifetime, but
right. And to get to the level you did, being second in the World Championships, what aspect of your personality contributed most to your success, do you think?
I think just being persistent and pretty tough-minded. As a little kid, I was always very irritating to my siblings because I was very persistent with everything I did. And it carried through into wrestling where, if I had to make a weight, I made the weight. If I had to make a weight the day after a big final in school, I did that. So, persistence, I think, is probably what got me all the way through to where I am now. But that's about the biggest thing I can point to. Mental toughness, which came along with John Rosales' help as time went on. But
what's your single most outstanding memory from your career in wrestling?
That was easily walking into the stadium at the Olympics in Korea in 1988. Big, huge stadium, 100,000 plus people cheering, and that was just everything you'd expect it to be when you watch it on TV.
Yeah.
And it, being down on the floor and being part of it was just huge. Even probably more exciting than winning the medal in the Worlds that I did the year after.
Yeah, quite an experience. Now, did you ever, in the international competitions, since you wrestled for Canada, did you compete against the United States at all? And
all the time.
And did you have any conflicted feelings about that or not?
No, it was almost like just wrestling another opponent in college. We guess we were kind of on the same circuit over the years, and
right, you knew everyone.
We knew everyone. We hung out together. We worked out together. So I knew all of the guys from the U.S. The U.S. guys knew all of us, and over the years, being on the freestyle circuit, so to speak, for a good 8 years, I got to know all the U.S. guys very well, and so there was never any conflicting issues really. I mean, it was always good competition, and the guys from the U.S. we always knew that we were going to have a tough match.
Right, I'm sure a respectful time.
Exactly.
What made you get involved in the sport of wrestling, Gary?
Again, that just goes back to Coach Rosales. He found me at 98 pounds on the football team my freshman year and just said, come on over here to the wrestling room, and introduced me to wrestling, and that was it. I didn't have any pre-exposure to wrestling before high school. I didn't do kid wrestling or pee-wee or anything like that. It was just John Rosales' influence all the way.
If you now that you've finished competing, would you have changed anything in your career?
Yeah, definitely. My last couple of years of my career in '88 and '89, when I went to the Olympics and the Worlds, in the Canadian system, we started using a sports psychologist, and that really helped me. And I think that's probably why I won my medal that I did in the Worlds in '89. Because prior to that, I just kind of prepared mentally as best I could, and I didn't really have any systems in place for preparation mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And we went through a pretty extensive sports psychology program and learning to relax before matches. And so if I had it to do again back in '84, '85, when I maybe could have made the Olympic team earlier in my career, I would have done that then. More sports psychology.
Yeah, so that made a difference.
Big difference.
Let's pick that back up. Let's just say, pick that up from, I think that sports psychology would have made a really big difference.
So I think if I was going to do something different, it would have been more sports psychology early in my career. I think I would have had more success, although I'm happy with the success I had.
Sure. And Gary, these interviews are going to be when we get a facility, which we're getting for the California Wrestling Hall of Fame. If you have kids, it'll be able to come in and be able to view the interviews and so forth. What would you like people to remember about you?
I think mostly, that just simply that I worked really hard in the wrestling room. I worked harder in the classroom, and that allowed me to be successful where I am today.
Yeah, well, that's great. Congratulations. Well deserved.
Thank you.
For being in the California Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Unexpected. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.